So I'm Chris Reeman. I'm the principal at the Hills Christian Community School in Verdun, South Australia. We're in the Adelaide Hills, beautiful area surrounded by vineyards. It's just a most delightful spot for children to be educated. Prior to the Australian curriculum arriving, we used SACSA, which is the South Australian Curriculum and Standards Framework. We used it well. It was well documented in the school and well taught, but it was taught mainly in isolation. About 5 years ago, when the staff looked at invigorating the curriculum, it was very much subject-based. And we looked at how we could integrate things better than we do. And then we looked at inquiry, and we just realised that was great for children's brains. So the staff gradually and then strongly adopted the inquiry methodology through the school. And of course then they needed to talk to each other more. So then we set up planning teams, and over the last 5 years they've taken on a whole new life in our school at HCCS.
My name is Angela Harvey. I'm the deputy here at Hills Christian School. My job started 3 years ago when the Australian curriculum was being rolled out. Part of my role when I started here at HCCS was to look at how we were actually going to implement the Australian curriculum. Part of it was that we knew that teams were the way that we wanted to do it, so we needed to provide structures for that to happen. We looked at our timetables, so we have teaching teams of 3. Within that we have a double lesson a week where teachers meet together, work around the Australian curriculum, look at it in depth and do their planning. We are rolling out the Australian curriculum in maths, in science, in English and in history, and all of the teams now are starting to look at geography, civics and citizenship. So it's a natural progression now that teachers are now just doing that rollout by themselves independently.
And so then the conversation went, well, if we're going to have to teach a new curriculum, there's a lot to fit in. There's a lot of extra content, a lot of extra outcomes that we're considering all the time. How are we going to do that? And so the teachers said, why don't we just rotate lessons? So I'll plan the health, someone else will plan the geography, someone else will plan the history, and we'll teach it across the 3 classes because all our professional learning groups are in teams of 3.
So we decided to specialise in areas that we actually thought we had some expertise in. I took on the visual arts section because I have an interest in the visual arts and I can share those skills across the 3 classes.
We came together as a learning team and we were familiarising ourselves with the Australian curriculum. It was obviously new to us as educators. So we created a document where the achievement standard was front of centre, front of mind for us. We could constantly refer to it, and the content descriptors on the side so we knew what we were referring to with our planning and with our teaching. So the challenges for us as we were engaging in the Australian curriculum were realising that we had students who were already achieving this, who were well beyond this, and a group of students who were honestly going to struggle to reach that standard. So for us as teachers, we needed to formulate a way to best meet the needs of all the students. So to do this, we agreed on common pre-assessment tasks to gain data on student learning. So we'd all sit the same test across the 3 classes to give us information on what the students already know. From there, we could take the results and group the students according to the next stage of their learning journey.
So some unexpected highlights or benefits of us working in our professional learning community and splitting students across different groups has been that the students have loved experiencing working with different teachers. The different teachers' teaching styles have been a real highlight. The students have come back to us and said that they've really loved spending some time with Mr Hodges and then with Mrs Nichols and then with Mr Ritchie, that the positives of each teaching style have come out on a regular basis, a bit like a middle school philosophy of education but in a junior school.
So what we do at the conclusion of our units of work, we then have a common post-assessment, and then we thought, well, we are working with a large range of abilities here, how are we going to work out how to report? So what we decided is we pulled out the criteria, and we call this moderating. We then get some examples of work and we match them to the criteria of the assessment, and then as a team we decide, well, this is worth this particular grade.
We really enjoy having the curriculum available to us with technology on the internet, and especially in a composite team where we've got Year 1 and Year 2 teachers and a Year 1-2 teacher, just being able to bounce between the different year levels just to see where each other are at, see where we want our kids to be at. It's a really immediate resource where we can just have one page there and one page there, and we can look at the both of them and compare them instantly, which gives us a lot of freedom in our planning and certainly a lot of information to know what we need to teach.
As a beginning teacher, the Australian curriculum is a real benefit to me, but certainly in a team that we have here at HCCS, it's a huge benefit to share resources and work together to plan and deliver our teaching.
Some of the benefits of the Australian curriculum are the continuum that it has provided, so that in future years when students have worked their way through using the Australian curriculum, that by the time they get to the upper primary levels, they will have a really good sound basis for their learning.
We've had a very rich and diverse music program over the time that I've been here, and it's been a really interesting process having a look at how the Australian curriculum has matched what we've done in the past, and we've had to make a few adjustments just to align it, but overall I've felt like pretty much what we were doing has had to have minimal adjustment to make the change across to match up with the Australian curriculum.
We use the achievement standards and also the content descriptors to sort of give us that compass to allow us to work out what it is we actually need to teach, and then from there we unpack exactly what goals we need to achieve as a team.
So we took this concept of power and honour and decided that, we tried to look at how we could investigate it in all the different curriculum areas. And following the inquiry approach, we decided to come up with 3 key questions that we thought would be fairly broadly applicable and would actually allow that room within health, within maths, within civics and citizenship, within history.
What we were trying to achieve, because we work across the 3 classes, is to ensure that each class arrives at the same endpoint and that students are walking away with the same understandings. So we've developed a unit plan where we're looking at activities which are sequenced, and at the end of that sequence should unpack that understanding for each one of the kids. And when we were thinking about how we were going to pull together the Year 6 and the Year 7 curriculum, we couldn't find a way to make it fit in a way that was engaging for the kids, and we felt very anxious about that and a sense of being overwhelmed. We thought, well, maybe if we looked at the general capabilities and looked at what are we trying to build into the kids in terms of who they are as people and how they think and how they respond to their world. And that began to influence and direct our thinking about how we were going to bring together our learning program. Developing our unit of power and honour, we wanting to look at kids' awareness of the world and of themselves. And in our school, we have a leadership program for the Year 7s where we want the kids to have a sense of self-awareness of who they are and what skills and qualities they're going to need for their life ahead as they leave primary school and go into high school.
When we plan for our English using the Australian curriculum, we go into the Australian curriculum, we look at the different strands within that, and then we will take our learning intentions from that for either literacy, literature or language, but then we may also find other areas that will tie in with the general capabilities and pull those learning intentions from the English Australian curriculum for some of our other areas, for example, communication.
So in our foundation year, we've really found integrating ICT is really successful with our children. So we have a phonics program where we can use interactive whiteboard, we can use iPads, and as a result, because their engagement's so high, the success rate of them reading and writing has really shot through the roof. They really experience a lot of success quite early on, we found.
So I believe the Australian curriculum has actually provided our staff with an opportunity to really dig deep into how children are learning. The staff have taken on responsibility for planning, implementing, assessing and reporting, I think, a new curriculum in an exemplary way. To me, that's been the huge benefit of the Australian curriculum, but it's provoked the professional learning life of our staff in an amazing journey.